Hello friends, and welcome to today's episode. Arthur, who was 19 and worked hard, was sad when his grandma died, and he didn't understand why she only left him an old rocking chair. But Arthur finds out that Granny Esme has one more thing she wants to teach her boys. Come on, you sweet boys. I don't have much more time. Granny Esme barely spoke above a whisper. When she reached for Luke and Arthur, her hands were shaking. The young guys got close to her so they could hear her. Take care of one another. As Esme looked at the boys, her eyes were full of love. This world isn't always easy. To get through life, you need to be smart and wise. You should help each other. Of course, Granny, we will. Arthur's tears ran down his face. We're a family and we'll always be there for each other. Esme was happy. Arthur was very nice and sweet. He didn't think that his brother Luke was selfish at all. And what about you, Luke? Esme tilted her head to look at Luke's face. Will you be there for your brother no matter what? Luke gave her a grin, and Esme knew that nothing else he said would be true. He had always relied on his good looks and charm for everything, which made him lazy and self-centered. But the boys would learn and get better in the end. Esme had made it happen. The light from the window seemed to get brighter and fill the whole room at that point. Esme smiled and felt peace in her heart. Her last thing was to squeeze the hands of both boys. Luke said, "The cheapest casket will do. After all, Granny is dead, so she wouldn't care about how nice her grave is. She would prefer that we save the money." Arthur looked sad. Since they got to the funeral home, he and Luke had never agreed on anything. Luke insisted that they save as much money as they could, which Arthur agreed with in general. However, he still wanted Granny Esme to have a funeral that was polite and respected her life. "I have some money saved up from mowing lawns and selling the tomatoes I grew last summer," Arthur said. "I was going to surprise Granny with a trip to the ocean, but now I'll use the money to buy her a blue coffin for her funeral, which I know she would have liked." Luke rolled his eyes and shook his head, but that didn't stop Arthur from talking to the funeral director about the plans. Arthur also used the last of his money to buy a spray of blue and white flowers for his grandmother's grave. After the event, some of Arthur and Luke's cousins gave them money to help them now that Granny couldn't take care of them anymore. Luke thanked them with a sad smile, but when they got into Luke's car to go home, he started counting the money. There were almost $2,000 in this bag. Luke smiled and began putting the money in his pockets. "Since I'm the oldest, Arthur, I'll handle the money." Arthur gave a shrug. Granny Esme and how much he missed her was all he could think about. A few days later, Arthur and Luke were called to the lawyer's office so that Granny Esme's will could be read. Granny had always been fair with the boys, and Arthur expected that to be reflected in her will. He was mistaken. "To my grandson, Luke Anderson, I leave my house," the lawyer read out loud. "And I give my old rocking chair made of wood to my grandson Arthur Anderson. I hope that when he sits in it, he will remember how much I loved him." Arthur's mouth fell open. Luke got the house, but his grandmother only gave him her rocking chair. How is that possible? He thought back to all the times he told Granny about his dream of owning a farm. She told him she would help him in any way she could. He had nothing left. "Dear Arthur, you didn't really think your loving grandmother would leave you only a rocking chair, did you?" "I am the oldest brother, so that makes sense." Luke stood up and shook the lawyer's hand. Granny Esme was a wise old lady. Luke laughed and tapped Arthur on the shoulder as they walked outside. "Well, you've just learned something important. I've got." Arthur gave his brother a frown. He still didn't know why Granny had done this and hoped Luke would explain. "You've learned that having charisma will get you the farthest in life." Luke gave a grin. "For all the times you helped Granny with jobs and all the hard work you put into making the backyard into a vegetable garden, all you got was a rocking chair. But my nice nature helped me get a house." Arthur just looked at his brother and didn't say anything. How could he be so callous? It seemed like he didn't miss his grandmother at all. Luke's mood got worse when he and his brothers went to Granny's house. "So, how long do you think it will take you to find a place of your own?" Luke spoke up. "Are you going to throw me out?" Arthur was astonished by his brother. "Don't you remember telling Grandma that we'd take care of each other?" "Sure, and I'm not going to throw you out." Luke looked sad. "But you need to learn to be on your own, and my girlfriend wants to move in with me. I'm sure that will make you feel bad. You might be able to stay in a shelter until you get back on your feet." Arthur slammed his hands together. He couldn't believe that his brother would act this way toward him. He looked at the old wallpaper and worn wooden floors of the house where they had lived since their parents died. Arthur wasn't afraid of hard work, and he knew he could make money for a place one day, but this was his home. There were many important memories on the walls. Luke went on to say, on the other hand, this place needs a lot of work before Stacy moves in. Here's the deal, bro. If you help me fix something, you can stay here rent-free until it's fixed. What say you? Arthur wanted to tell his brother to leave him alone, but he wasn't in a good situation to do so. Instead, he put his head down and agreed to what Luke wanted to do. Arthur would never know that Luke started laughing as soon as he left the room. I can always count on my little brother to be a fool, he said. Over the next week, Arthur worked hard to fix the loose tiles in the bathroom, paint the hallway, and replace the old linoleum in the kitchen. Luke helped a little at first, but soon he was just telling Arthur what to do while watching TV. Luke told him one day that he should also clean out the attic. You can also get your inheritance down from there while you're at it. Arthur thought he heard his brother laugh as he took down the ladder to the attic, but he told himself he was making it up. In one corner was Granny's mahogany rocking chair, which was full of spider webs and dust. As Arthur dusted it off, he thought about all the times Granny told him stories about her childhood while they sat on the porch swing in the afternoon. Grandma was right when she said that we should always look out for each other. Every time I sit in this chair, I'll remember the love you showed us, Arthur said. Luke might change everything about this house, but Granny Esme, I'll always love you. Arthur wiped away his tears and sat down in the chair. Since Granny died, his whole life had turned upside down. Granny's will made no sense, and he would soon be without a house because of it. Maybe Luke would let me live up there. Arthur leaned back in his chair, and at the same time, two things happened. First, a loud crash came from a part of the roof above him. Then dollar bills fell like confetti on him. What's up? Arthur took a bill from his lap and looked at it. Benjamin Franklin gave him the same look. He tried to pick up a few more bills that had dropped on the ground. All of the bills were for $100. When Arthur looked up, he saw a trapdoor right above him. When he got up to look at it, he saw that the trapdoor handle was tied to the rocking chair with a rope. He must have opened it as he swayed back and forth in the chair. He then looked inside the secret storage space and gasped. There were a lot of money bags in the small area. One of them had a letter propped up against it. Granny's beautiful handwriting was used to write his name on it. Arthur took the letter from its place and opened it. Dear Arthur, you really didn't think your loving grandmother would only leave you a rocking chair, did you? How did the letter start? All of this money is for you, but you have to promise me one thing. Never tell Luke about it. Arthur didn't understand why Granny was so insistent, but the letter told him that she knew Luke would be careless with the money and waste it. She also wrote that this was why he had left Luke her house, so that he would always have a place to live, even if he made bad choices in life. Arthur put the letter against his chest. Even though he was crying, he couldn't stop laughing. Granny had once again saved his life. When Luke kicked Arthur out of the house a week later, he didn't say anything about the money. He had already bought a small farm with the money he found. He had always wanted to be a farmer, and now he could make that dream come true. In the years that followed, Arthur's farm's goods became well known in the area. He sold fresh fruit and veggies to grocery stores in the area, and then started selling jams and pickles. Everyone knew that Esme's farm was the place to get high-quality food at a good price. Arthur drove into town every weekend to get his young nieces and nephews. Luke and Stacy got married not long after they moved in together, and they now have 5 kids. Luke had trouble keeping a job, but when Arthur picked up the kids, he brought them food from the farm. Arthur wanted to make sure that his cousins and nephews didn't pick up Luke's bad habits. He taught them how to take care of the plants that would feed them and how to work the land. When they chose to bring back the vegetable garden he had made at home so many years ago, it made him very happy. Then Arthur met his true love. He went to a conference on dairy farming to learn more about it because he wanted to grow his business. That's where he met Kaylee. At first sight, they fell in love. Before they got married, they were together for a year even though they lived far apart. Arthur got terrible news a few days after Kaylee gave birth to twin boys. When the phone rang, he and Kaylee were in the middle of changing the twins' diapers. When Arthur saw who was calling late at night, he knew it had to be bad news. Bro, the house is gone, Luke told his brother. Gone. A fire broke out. God, it got around so quickly. Is everyone doing okay? Stacy and I got the kids out of the house just in time, but now Luke groaned. We have nowhere else to go. Yes, you do, answered Arthur. My farm manager just quit his job and moved in with his kids. You'll need some furniture, but the cottage is empty and you can move in whenever you're ready. Luke gave his brother a lot of thanks. They got there that same night, and by the end of the week, the family had moved into the house. "You're a wonderful brother for letting us stay at your house." Luke hit Arthur on the shoulder and smiled at him in his usual way. Grandma was right when she said that we should always look out for each other. Exactly. Arthur smiled back at his brother's grin. "You're lucky that the house you moved into comes with a job. I'll see you at 4:30 on Monday morning to tell you what you have to do for the day." That's it for today, friends. Please let us know what you think about this story. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon for more amazing stories.